Welcome, everybody, to the You Inside You, the podcast where you discover how to know, recognize, and trust the voice of your true self. This is where we explore what it really means to live in alignment, to honor your soul's voice, and to create connections without losing who you are. Each of the episodes that I do is about uncovering the you inside you, the part of you that already knows your truth, your worth, your power. It's about reclaiming your freedom to live authentically, live boldly, and step into the next level of who you came here to be. Oh, I love this. And I actually just developed this new program called Living the Upgrade, where you really integrate this upgrading that you're meant to live, that you want to be at without going back into the older versions of yourself. And that's not what we're going to be talking about today. Today's guest actually embodies what we're talking about here so beautifully. Amy Wilkinson is a manifestation teacher, intuitive mentor, and the host of the Abundance Club, a top 5% global podcast where she guides soul-led women and entrepreneurs into wealth, alignment, and embodied leadership. From her home on Australia's Sunshine Coast, Amy blends nervous system safety, universal laws, and grounded spiritual practice to help women shift money stories, trust their intuition, and live from their highest timeline. Now, we'll be exploring the overlap between Amy's powerful teachings and soul-led abundance and my focus on authentic connection. Two different doors that open into the same room, living in full alignment with who you really are. Amy, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. That was such a beautiful introduction. And I love how our two worlds feel so aligned with a lot of how you're introducing your podcast. It's like, oh, you're speaking my language. So I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely, Amy. And we were just talking before we hit record on this, that how did we even meet? And I think that none of us actually remembered how we even got in touch with one another. And I think this is such a beautiful, beautiful sign of just two souls that are called to one another. And I love having you here with me. This is definitely a divine meeting, and all the way across the world, where it's your morning and it's my evening, the time that we're recording this show. So this is just going to be a wonderful, deep, soul-led conversation that Amy and I are going to have today.
I love the mystery. I love the mystery of it, because I'm open to whatever wants to come through in this conversation, but for whatever reason, you and I were meant to come together. And the fact that neither of us are really quite sure, because it's been over a number of months, I think, that we've been trying to make it kind of come together. And obviously, I mean, for me in Australia today, it's the 9th day of the 9th month of the 9th universal year. I'm like, there is a reason that we are coming together today for this conversation. So I'm excited and intrigued to see how it's all going to flow.
I love that. And for the listeners to really go deep into their own connections, you know, when you meet that one person, or you come across this one person at the supermarket, or somebody calls you out of the blue, and you just feel that, this was just so good, or like we were meant to meet, or our paths crossed right at the right time, or they had this certain message that I needed to hear. And I really just want you to connect with that and how it happens in your life, and reflect back on if anything happened this week or even today, those little nudges of, wow, this was supposed to happen. Like, universe really have my back in this. And that was just really inspired by what you just said, Amy.
Yeah, and I think that's so beautiful, because that's also one of the ways that spirit, your guidance team, whatever you want to call it, communicates to you, right? Often it will come through the voice of others who you might bump into, and they say something to you, and you just know, like, that was for me. I needed to hear that. And it felt almost like it came through them. right? They're the messenger. They're like the servant in that moment to pass that message on. And in those moments where you're like, this was meant to happen. Nothing is by accident. Everything is divinely aligned and synchronistic. We just need to open up our eyes and our ears and our feeling sense to notice the way that life is communicating to us always, always, always.
Mm. So this is about opening your heart. This is about opening, kind of putting your mind on the back burner, because when we're diving into these deep conversations, it is going to be your soul listening. It is going to be that distant calling that's going to be listening. Because through my journey of finding the you inside you, my journey to self-love was definitely recognizing those small nudges, the voice that I thought was not possible, the dreams and the ideas and passions and things that I never thought I was even allowed to ask for. It was just all limited. That's for other people. That's not for me. I can't do that. I see other people do it and I'm happy for them and I'm grateful for them, but that's not what's in store for me. But that limiting voice of myself still had those little divine nudges, those little, well, remember, there's more. And I don't know how Amy and I came together, but there is something here and we need to explore it. She needs to be on my podcast because there is this kindred connection. And so I'm so excited to have you here today. And I'm really curious to know what you think is important for my listeners to know about you. Just take us back a little bit and walk us through kind of who is Amy and how did you kind of become where you're at today?
It's always such a big question, but I love that you asked like what you feel my listeners would need to hear, because I think, at the end of the day, this is serving those who have taken the time to put this into their ears today and listen. And I don't take that for granted for a second. Time is precious, even though we can go a little deeper into seeing that time is an illusion, is a construct of the 3D, but that's another conversation. But at any rate, the energy that you're giving into receiving this. So I think it's always great to bring through what I feel is needed. So my journey has been primarily over the last 20 years. I'll go over the last 20 years. I'm 43 now. I have always been on a path of self-discovery. I started reading, the self-help books, so the Louise Hay and the Wayne Dyer. Honestly, in my late teens, I was introduced into that world. And when I read, I think the first book that I read was You'll See It When You Believe It, rather than you'll believe it when you see it. The other way around. You'll see it when you believe it. It was Wayne Dyer's book. And I remember reading it, and I would have been in my teens, and I just had this recognition, just this knowing. It's like my soul was going, oh yeah, hang on a minute. We are here for something more, and we can co-create our world. And I love the whole world of manifestation because it is something that I have been actively participating in for so long. So I was always seeking deeper truths, and what I know now is that I was always following that higher calling. I wouldn't have been able to articulate it at the time, but I went with where I was feeling drawn to go to make the moves I was feeling drawn to make, even though it didn't make logical sense. And this has really been a theme throughout my life. I went on to teach yoga, to build a yoga brand in Australia, and created multiple studio locations. And I've always been led by that inner voice when it didn't make logical sense, when it seemed like on paper I was making risky moves. And that continues to guide me and continues to support me to make moves and leaps in my life that still scare me. But whenever I do that, I realize I've come to develop such a beautiful, loving, trustworthy relationship with what I call the divine or source. And knowing that that is a part of all of us. I mean, you spoke before about the mind and how that we get to a point where we realize that we have been letting the mind lead us for such a long time, for most of our life, because we've been conditioned to prioritize that mental knowledge, the mental plane, the intellect. But the thing is, the mind doesn't lead. The mind can't lead. The mind is always going to be pulling us back into what is known and what is familiar and into the past. So the mind doesn't lead us forward. It doesn't have the map that our soul has, right? That divine blueprint of why we chose to come here and incarnate into this lifetime and what we're here to discover and learn and experience through life. So the mind will always have us questioning and doubting, because its job is to keep us safe. So it wants to keep us in what's known and familiar. So that part of us that is leading us forward, and this isn't to say, like, I've made choices in my life and continue to, that can feel really scary, can feel really terrifying to our ego, that considers going into the unknown as a death sentence, because it is for the ego. But if we can learn to lean into and develop a loving and trustworthy relationship with the part of us, the you inside you, our soul essence, the part that's bigger than the mind, so much bigger than the mind. It's bigger than our stories. It's bigger than our body. It's bigger than our roles. That part of us that is here to guide and lead us, when we can develop and formulate that relationship, we tap into what I call the miracle zone. We tap into infinite possibility. We move out of the probability and the logic of the mind, which is the language of the mind, and we move into infinite possibility and the miracle zone, which is the language and the essence of our soul.
Mm. Oh, it's so beautiful. So the mind has limitations, right? And the you inside you is that infinite possibilities. I love how you really depict how the mind takes us backwards, right? It holds us back because it is based on lived experience, right? Based on memory, based on those limitations, limited beliefs, thoughts, perceptions from our past that we've gathered as a human. So I'm curious to know how, like, when did you first discover that they're like, or really be aware, because we all have this knowledge of the you inside you. We're born completely whole and connected when we come to Earth, is what I believe. And we then get bombarded with conditioned stuff from our parents and our society, and how we should and how what we can and what we should do and want and not. So there's a state where we forget that part of who we are.
Yeah.
So when was it when you started reading these books? So when did it become clear to you that there was kind of a separate part of you, the you inside you, that was not necessarily your mind?
I feel like this is a gradual process of continually peeling back the layers. We can call it awakening. We are continually awakening more and more in this lifetime. And I love that you use the word remembering, because that's what I call it as well. It's actually, we're not essentially becoming anything. If anything, it's a process of unbecoming, peeling back all of the layers of illusion and the lies. Like, the mind tells us lies. When we do the work on a lot of the stories that our mind tells us and the beliefs, when we do the work, and this might be the work of Byron Katie, I'm a big fan of Byron Katie's, but when we question those beliefs and ask, like, is that actually true? What we find most of the time is, like, 99.9% of the time, it's not true. It's lies. But yet those lies keep us caged and limited. So in answer to your question, yes, there is a part of us that always knows. It's the part of us that knows beyond the mind. And yet we get disillusioned because of the conditioning, because of but we are meant to as well, right? We are meant to go into the shadow. We are meant to be concealed in order to reveal, in order to remember the truth of who we are. And that's the cracking open. That's the beautiful awakening journey. But we don't just wake up and then it's done. It's the continual peeling back and the realization, here is another way that I've actually been playing small. So I feel like I'm opening up to this more and more. I'm still in this process. I've gone through periods in my life, and you might call these the dark nights of the soul or those rock bottom moments. And yet they're not a rock bottom moment. You're just being elevated to that next level. And it feels like you're there at the bottom, but that's the crumbling. And at the moment, particularly with what we're going through with these eclipses and in this 9th month and in the 9th year, it's all about the letting go. It's all about the release. It's all about the choosing to no longer cling to old timelines and old identities that have been keeping us in a certain reality, because we're here for more. And our soul is always going to lead us towards expansion. That is the whole reason that we're here. We're here to experience life and to expand and to remember. And so in that process, there is a lot of the releasing and the clearing and the letting go. So I feel like that never ends. And that can feel a little overwhelming, but it's beautiful because it's just revealing more, and we get to choose in each moment and each day to reinvent ourselves, to no longer listen to those old lies and those stories, and to come back into alignment with our true full soul expression. And I believe that's what the journey that we're on at the moment, and we're experiencing more and more of this awakening because that's what we're here for at this time.
I hope that the people listening right now can really hear loud and clear how reaffirming this journey is. That there's no right or wrong, there's no destination, there's no really start point of this awakening journey that we're growing into. As soon as we become just a little bit aware that there are these other truths in the world, really, than what we were perceiving or told early on. I mean, I was not necessarily told about the ego and my higher self, and trusting the divine, and I found all of that stuff out myself on my journey. But I love how you're talking about the deepening and how we decide the pace, and how we always have an opportunity through contrast. There's no bad stuff happening in the world. Whatever we find ourselves in is an opportunity for that expansion and the growth. It's almost like it's meant to happen for us to continue to evolve, is what I hear you say. And I love that.
And you look back, you can look back even at times in your life that you thought were rock bottom. And it's often only the gift of time when we can look back and see, wow, what I thought was the crumbling there was actually led to my greatest expansion. And we can do that. And this isn't to diminish the real pain and heartache and grief or loss that one can experience when we're in it. But when we can come from a place of really understanding and knowing that life is here not to punish us, but to support us and to prepare us, and that everything we're moving through is actually supporting the expansion that we as a soul has chosen, I just think that offers us so much more strength and support to navigate those times.
Absolutely.
Because we're all experiencing it.
So it's this notion of both and both and has showed up in my life as a real logical savior. I am also a very logical person, very spiritual, and I am very creative, and I love being in the moment and stay in that flow. But I'm also one that really likes to break things up into steps and into parts to really understand, why are we here and what's the meaning with everything, and how do I get from A to B? And I lost a train of my thought with that, but take me back to what you were just saying. I was going
on that, something I was going to add on to that, and I heard Michael Beckwith. Michael Beckwith is a beautiful spiritual teacher. It's just such a gorgeous soul. And I heard him saying something the other day, and it so resonated. And he said, we need to speak to ourselves more than we listen to ourselves. Because when we're listening to ourselves, very often, unless we've gotten to a place where our mind is more self-directed, right? Where we are utilizing the mind rather than the mind utilizing us, because the mind is a tool. It's a brilliant tool. But I think what has happened is we've got into the habit of letting the mind dictate, letting the mind drive the car where it's not meant to. So when we're listening to the mind all the time, we're listening to quite often the lies, the doubt, the fear, the stories that are designed to keep us stuck and not moving forward. And we need to start talking to ourselves more, in choosing better feeling thoughts, in choosing to speak truth to those lies, right? Like literally being in conversation with yourself and saying, you know what? That's not true. I know I'm on the right path. I'm here for great things. I am a success. I know that all is happening for my highest good. Like those kind of things. We can start to talk to ourselves more than we listen to ourselves, and use the mind in the way that it is actually designed to serve us, not for us to be a slave to the mind that we often are, but to get the mind out of the driver's seat, right? To get the ego and the fear out of the driver's seat. And we move in collaboration. I talk about manifestation as co-creating alongside the divine, alongside this spiritual essence, alongside this creative consciousness. And you are the one, that soul aspect of you is the one that's here to lead yourself forward. So I hope that that ties in a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful, because it is leaning into that fear that you talked about in the beginning of stepping into grounds that are not familiar to us, that doesn't feel comfortable. This is a muscle that we practice. This is an ongoing process of focusing on things that serve us instead of the habitual thoughts that hold us back. And that's, I hear that's what you're really like feeding into. And I'm wondering if you can give an example of some contrasts that have shown up in your life that was kind of those life events where you're like, wow, this like really blew my mind open, or shed some new layers of myself that could be really an example of this expansion process that you're talking about. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I've gone through, I've taken different leaps in my life. I can speak more recently, 3 years ago. So I do live on the Sunshine Coast, which is a beautiful beach town on the coast of east coast of Australia. But we moved up here 3 years ago from Brisbane City, where we had our businesses. And this is just an example of the way that we can go against the logic, like the logical plan, and start to trust in the guidance of our soul, even when it feels scary. So a few years ago now, maybe 4 years ago, I just started to feel like there was something that was calling me forward. Now, nothing was going bad in my life. We lived in a beautiful home in a lovely suburb. The kids were really happy. We had our business, the main headquarters of our studios was around the corner from our house. It was all very convenient. Nothing was going wrong, but there was just this deeper yearning and calling in my soul for something more. Now, in that moment, I didn't know what that was, but this is the way that our guidance team, our soul, will communicate to us. It might be through starting to feel like something's not right here, or there's something more that's calling me forward. We're not giving the whole map, we're not giving the whole picture, but we're just starting to get a sense there that there's something more. And I know I speak with so many women. I primarily deal with women, but I have men and women that listen to my podcast, of course, that so many of us that just feel that. I don't know what it is, but there's something else that's here for me. And so I started to have conversations with my husband and open up this prospect of, I said, I feel like we're being called up the coast. And if I was to listen to my mind, it would have said, but you've got your business here, your kids are happy, like all of the reasons why that's not a good idea. And just stay where you are. It's known, it's safe and familiar. Now, I don't operate, I've learned over the last 20 or so years to trust that calling, because I'm here to grow. So I lent into that. And to cut a long story short, we ended up putting up our house, a beautiful house that we loved, for sale, selling up everything, not knowing where we were going to move to. I like to live in a beautiful home, so I was envisaging a home by the beach, but I didn't know how it was going to land in this short time frame that we had, how I was going to get the kids into schools. I was told there was huge wait lists. And I continued to move forward and lean into that and trust in that and feel what it would be like on the other side of that. And a lot of what I teach is about, our feelings being magnetic, and that if there is something here, if there is a desire in your heart and you're being called towards something, it is because it is for you. It's not there to just dangle a carrot in front of you and say, like, here we go, wouldn't this be nice in an ideal world? It's like,
Yeah.
that is your soul communicating to you. Pay attention. We ended up, the miraculous happened. We had the schools land in at the right exact perfect timing. Didn't make logical sense. The house that I'm in is one that I envisaged, that I saw myself in, but it's even better because spirit always has a better plan. It made absolutely no logical sense how we managed to get this home, the price that we got it for. It just made no logical sense. And if someone had said to me a year before that this is going to happen, I would have been like, what, how? And I think we get so focused on the how, we get so obsessed on the how, and we think that the how is our job, where it's just not, right? The how is not our business. And from there, we ended up selling our business of 15 years and taking a even bigger leap. And that's a whole nother story in itself. And we manifested a business sale. Now, I'm brushing over everything. Within all of that, there was the doubts, there was the fears, there was, who am I to do this? How am I going to do this? I had children that my teenage daughter was saying I was ruining her life. And I just had to hold steady and say to her, I just need you to trust me. You just need to lean into me and trust me. And behind me, I was trusting in spirit. And did I have doubts and questions? And was my mind just going overtime and like, what are you doing, Amy? Like, absolutely. We don't create these things. These manifestations don't happen in the absence of doubt and in the absence of fear. We hear it, we feel it, and yet we continue to lean into that bigger force that's leading us. So I hope that answers your question in just one of the examples of where I learned to trust in that.
Absolutely. You trust and you lean into it, and it happens. And the expansion of that is so beautiful. And I think, the unknown, the fear of the unknown, and the attachment of what is just so strong. And it's something that I just don't get tired of talking about, because to this day, I'm still coaching myself and leaning into it, because it's still a practice, because it's not something that is known to everyone to really trust that. A lot of people hold themselves back. They keep themselves stuck. I was stuck for many years in my life, blaming everybody in my life and blaming circumstances, because I thought that, I was just in a very difficult position that I couldn't get myself out of. But that's just all an illusion. And what I find now is that I find a lot of women who has done a lot of the work, right? They've done a lot of the healing. They've done a lot of the expansion. They might have started meditation or mindfulness practice. They're believing in spirit or higher power. And they're elevating through these layers, but find themselves very lonely and often doubtful. And I certainly was on that train where they're like, okay, well, where is the validation? Where are my people? And as a result, tend to kind of go back down into what's familiar, going back into old versions of themselves, and then not getting that recognition there either, because they feel misunderstood, because they have a higher awareness of the people that they're in circles with. It's almost like my mentor gave me this example today, and I just love it. She said, we go into an elevator to find higher ground, right? We want to get to a new level, and we feel the level. And this is what you're talking about, that we have a deeper yearning. There's more to life, and feel into what's on the other side. And most people I talk to can kind of imagine what that feels like, but there's freedom, and there is confidence, and there's elevation, and there's these deeper meaning, deeper relationships, and people recognizing me for who I am and accepting me for who I am. And which also takes to, we got to do that job for ourselves, right? But that's part of being in the elevator, because when we're going up to new levels, there is an internal journey that happens in that. And it can be quite lonely at times, because often there is a period of transition that often happens alone, unless we're really lucky to go from one container to another container that can kind of hold us in that transition, which often doesn't happen, because there's this kind of loss of certain groups and loss of certain community or loss of relationships transitioning, even meaningful relationships, getting divorced or separating from kids. There's a lot of stuff that happens when we expand. But what we don't know is, in that isolation of being stuck in this elevator by ourselves and no doors are opening, and we're like, well, I knew going into this elevator that a door will open for me. When am I there? When am I there? What am I going to do? And we don't know that there is a penthouse waiting for us.
Yeah.
Right? That there's this beautiful life. If we can just trust and do the work instead of worrying and creating more resistance and getting the elevator more stuck, that we can actually continue to heal, continue to integrate those parts of ourselves, sit and meditate, trust the process, look at the walls, make meaning of it. We're really trying to get symbolic here, but I know you're following my my analogy here.
Yeah.
And when we get up there and we look back at it, we understand the whole journey, right? We're like, I felt it the whole time. I knew I was going to be part of this amazing people and these beautiful surroundings and this beautiful house that manifested at this price that I didn't even know was going to happen, right? I had it all in my head, but I didn't know how.
Yeah.
I didn't know how. And so what is your advice to people that are kind of have one foot in the elevator, one foot still out, and not really sure that they can handle this maybe lonely travel that is, or finding themselves stuck in the elevator and not yet knowing what's coming?
It's such an important, this is such an important conversation, because this is why a lot of people will get off at the top floor when they're one level off the penthouse, right? They'll get off because it gets too uncomfortable. And you're absolutely right. And I love the analogy of it. And it's beautiful because, there are some people that are going to get off at other floors, some people from our life that need to get off. And this is because the you that you are becoming is not the you that you've been, the you who is living up in that penthouse, who's living in that higher reality, who's living on that higher timeline, is not the same you who's been living in that other reality. Now, this isn't to say that you've got to get rid of everyone in your life. You're going to be shown, life is going to show you, and they'll often show you in ways that might feel uncomfortable. And in answer to your question, you said a word there that is key, and it's trust. Right? It's trust, and the other one is certainty, like really, really anchoring in. And we can we can utilize this connection that we have to the greater consciousness. We can, whether you call that God, and I always, recommend that people find whatever their own spiritual understanding is. Maybe it's love, maybe it's universe, God, source, creator, whatever it is. It only matters that it feels true for you. And you can ask that part of you for more strength, for more courage, for more certainty, that what is here for you is meant for you, and that you are always, always, always looked after. The thing that happens, though, is we look outside for the guarantees. We look outside for life to give us that validation, to show us through our three-dimensional circumstance the proof and the evidence of the work that we're doing, of our alignment. Life is only going to be, though, a mirror and reflection of the energy and the alignment that you are holding within yourself. Right? Life is that mirror. So this is why there can be that lag in the three-dimensional, because matter is obviously slower than the energy and the frequency that we're holding. And this is why it's so important, you're going up that elevator, to hold that frequency of who you are becoming, of the you that is living that higher timeline, that is living in that penthouse, that is living in that beautiful soul-fulfilling relationship, that has the money in the bank, or whatever it is that you are consciously calling in, that you are desiring. Really understanding and knowing that that is there for you, that's actually desiring you as much as you're desiring it. When we are looking, though, outside continually for the evidence, we're reinforcing our current three-dimensional circumstances. Our job is not to figure out the how, is not to make anything happen or to try and go and sort it out. Our job is to hold the frequency through our alignment, through how we're choosing to feel, what we're choosing to believe, those self-directed beliefs that are supporting us, through the actions that we're taking, through the feelings that we're feeling, to hold that frequency. And when we can do that, we are then sending out a core vibration, a dominant frequency out into the field, out into the quantum field, which is going to magnetize in what is a match for that? What is an actual energetic match for that? We need to be able to hold that even when our legs are shaking, even when there is discomfort, even when we might be questioning and doubting and looking for the evidence. Because quite often it is just one more flaw. And you're so close. And often it's right before that manifestation lands that we feel the most tested, that we feel the most like we're doubting ourselves, where we're looking around going, I'm on my own. Who am I to do this? But if you can, in those moments, double down on the stories that you're telling yourself that are just so empowering, because you are painting your world. You are literally co-creating your world via the thoughts that you're thinking and the frequency that you're holding. And life isn't going to give you the guarantees. You are the guarantee, because you are source. You are source consciousness. And when you can anchor in and hold that frequency, and this might be just in the small decisions and the choices that you made. I'm no longer going to react to that. I'm no longer going to second guess myself. Instead, I'm going to make this move from a place of courage. And it might just be a small move, but all of those small choices and those small moves compound and accumulate to bring you into that quantum leap, onto that higher timeline. Well, I hope that answers your question. I think that it's a really, really big, a lot of people go through this, and a lot of people will go down into those other, will stay where they are because it feels too much. But the other thing I want to just say to that is, you have so much support in the ethereal realm. Call on that support. Ask to be shown. Ask for the strength and the courage, because you're not walking this path alone.
Yes. And if nothing else, continue to listen to Amy and sign on to her podcast, follow her, subscribe to my podcast. Continue to be around rooms and containers that really speak to your heart. The more we are in those rooms and those communities and people of inspiration, is really solidifying this vibration that we're trying to shift. We want to be surrounded by people that really match that frequency, even if we're still doubting ourselves and maybe not feeling like we fully belong in some of those rooms and containers. We want to be there, because eventually we will kind of catch up with our vibration. And as you were speaking, Amy, I really got another elevator vision here. And I really want to speak through to this, because if anybody is kind of a visionary like me, and somebody really likes these visionary or visual analogies, what I kind of saw is the elevator is like an incubator. That when we go into the elevator, and even if it's kind of dark and we're alone, it also serves a purpose, right? Because it's not that we're necessarily alone in our growth, but we have to disconnect it somewhat to what is known and familiar in order for us to focus and concentrate on the newness. How else are we going to get in the newness? Because yes, we can marinate in podcasts and in good books and maybe in rooms of high frequency, but we can't do that all the time. We also live in normal world. And a lot of times that world kind of drags us down into the old version of ourselves, because that's what people are used to, responding to the old version of yourself. So when you get into this elevator, this incubator, of being in the silence and being without influence of community can also be extremely valuable, because this is where you create your reality. This is where you create your life. And what I often see, and I'm going to make another analogy, and so please stay with me here on the elevator, is we open doors to the different floors and we see familiar faces, right? On the different levels we go through. We open a door and we're like, oh yeah, I know how to speak this kind of a drama or a conflict language that I've been used to. I know how to handle those people. I know how to handle myself, and don't really want to be part of it. So we go back in the elevator, right? And we go up on another level, and here we go again. We see something familiar, which is we can do that, but we don't necessarily feel like we belong there anymore. We've kind of graduated from those kind of people. They're nice people and we connect with them and we can have relationships with them, but it's not really fostering who I am. So we're trying to find new levels. And this is where we kind of feel stuck in the elevator of getting to those higher levels of people that really foster this newness that we want to get into. And we might get off on a floor where we feel like, oh my gosh, I don't deserve this. I don't really belong here. I can't imagine me being part of this because I'm not worthy of this. So we now go back in the elevator, we go back to a previous floor, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because here's what Eckhart Tolle says, right? We go back, we regress backwards sometimes to get perspective into the new version of us. We need to go back to familiar ground to see things from a distance and actually reflect on that top floor again. I was like, wait a minute, I actually resonated more with that new level, although it's so familiar because it's so new. It's so new. I'm not used to being around people like that. Can it really be true? Is it real? Are they really that loving and accepting? We get back in the elevator, the incubator, and we sit there for a while. And we're alone, and we may not have people around us, but we are on a mission now. We're more focused than ever, because you want to get back up there, but you want to be prepared, right? This is where you're talking about preparing your frequency and upgrading ourselves, because if we can hold space and be patient with the little steps, when we open those doors again, and it may take us a few times to open the doors, but we open it, we're going to look at that new floor, new experience completely different, with a new sense of upgraded self-worth and self-esteem, because we see ourselves in a new light due to being in the incubator, because of the distance we got from an old part of ourselves and an old life, preparing ourselves into the newness. And isn't that so cool? Like, it is like an incubator elevator. I'm just like,
yeah.
so
I mean, we
about
could
the
go so
analogy.
many different ways with that. I think it's really beautiful. And you're right in that, like, none of it is good or bad, right? And it's all preparing us.
Yes.
And when we can find a deeper level of acceptance of what is, rather than trying to force outcomes and change. And again, when we're doing that, you know, we can really bring the ego in, even when it comes into manifestation, because we get hooked into creating certain outcomes. But we're doing it. We need to look at, what place am I coming from? Am I doing this? Am I going after this because I don't believe I'm enough? Right. And then we know when we're coming then from the ego, because the ego is rooted in lack and separation and scarcity. It's always this feeling of, I am not enough, so I need more. I need those things outside of myself. The work that I do with women, when we come back into this remembrance of who we are, we reclaim our wholeness, and we understand that nothing is missing. Everything is here right now. If we truly believe that we are connected to the source of all that is, like, I love the analogy of like rays of the sun, or like waves of the ocean. We are a part of that one. There is nothing missing. Right? There is nothing missing in us. When we can come back into that beautiful recognition, then we start to create, we start to magnetize from a place of wholeness. And so a lot of us on this journey up and down the elevator is, what a lot of what we're seeking is already here inside of us. Because it's never the thing that we're wanting. We think it's the thing.
Yeah.
We think it's the new house or the car or the job or the promotion or the relationship. We think that's what it is, but we know we get the thing and we don't feel another new level of fulfillment. So what is it that we're actually seeking? And I think that this is a really important question to ask ourselves. What is it? And when we come back to this, and I know this from the work that I've done, not only myself, the work I do with clients, is we're after a feeling, right? And that feeling might be peace, it might be joy, it might be love, it might be freedom. Like these are all of the things that our soul desires to experience in this lifetime. What we realize is we already are that. We already have that. I could ask you right now, focus on a time in your life where you felt immense joy, right? And freedom. And in that instant, you can tap into that feeling. The more that we can allow ourselves, and I'm using the word allow deliberately because quite often we're so fixated on the to-do list and all the things that we need to do and achieve and acquire and accomplish and tick off. We're so focused on that. And then I'll let myself feel joy. Once I've done this, once I'm on holidays, and we push it out, we delay our happiness and our joy. If we can come back home to ourselves and realize that actually everything that I'm seeking, I've got access to, I can tap into that right now. That feeling of joy and for freedom and fulfillment, it's not out there, it's here. The more that we let ourselves dwell in the frequency of that, knowing that we are already that, that's our magnetism. That's when those things start to find us because we're not coming from a place of lack. We're coming from knowing that I am deserving of that because I am whole, I am love, I am light, I am all of that. And when we speak of the law of attraction or the law of vibration, we draw more of that in, that which we are. And that's why I've been using the mantra lately of like, I can have it all because I am it all, right? I am all of it and I can have it all. And the work I do with women is realizing that you don't have to sacrifice. You can actually have it all. So, that this is part of the journey is forgetting and remembering. And the illusion is that we're not already that we don't already have that.
I love that. Tell me about the women that you help.
A lot of the women that I help are kind of in this moving into this like sacred second phase of life where we're done for living for others, and whether that's our children or our spouses or other people's expectations of us. And we get to a point where we realize that there's something else here for me, that I can actually move into this new part of my life and the second phase of my life. And it's not always like I will work with younger women as well. Tends to be women that have some spiritual connection already, but they know that they're being prepared and called for something more. And it's to support them in that transition to actually claim and receive. So much of this work is about opening ourselves up to be a receiver, to tap into our feminine nature. We're here to receive as women.
Yeah.
We're not here to go and over effort and hustle. That's the masculine paradigm. And we've been conditioned in that masculine paradigm for far too long. And this awakening now is the remembrance that we are here to live our divine essence. And a big part of that is being the channel and the conduit to receive all that's here and to serve in a greater capacity. So the women that work with me are here to serve in a bigger way and to show up as their fullest, truest self-expression, which is the most liberating thing that we can do. So it's just such a joy to facilitate that unfolding and the peeling back of all of the illusions, all the way that we've played small and kept ourselves tight into these tight little boxes. And we're here for more and to experience it all. And it's such a gift, not only for ourselves, but for those that are in our lives and those that we're here to serve and to impact in the way that our soul knows we are. So
I love that. It's so beautiful, Amy. And I can just tell that you have created such a safe and empowering space for women particularly to learn how to receive, learn to get closer to the you inside you, really trusting that inner guidance, which a lot of us just don't know how to do. And if anybody listening feel called to know more about Amy, I want to make sure that you guys will get connected with her, because this is about finding the teacher, finding the mentor, finding the facilitator to help you walk through that growth and expansion together. You know, Amy and I have not come to this stage in life or even our connection today without having a lot of help and a lot of community and a lot of mentors and a lot of coaching and I'm sure therapy and to get to the point where we're at today, because we can't do it ourselves unless we're like living out in the forest, you know, connecting to nature and not have any, you know, big aspirations in life in helping people and connecting, or as I call it, you know, our transformations change generations. If we want to leave a legacy, if we want to do something for the people around us and have an influence on the expansion of the world, we need help and we need support and we need somebody to guide us through that. And so thank you for sharing how you help women support that, or get to the best version of themselves. Because as soon as we have those tools to trust fully, it can just be applied to everything in our lives, right? It's like we create these wings where it's like, oh, I can go anywhere now. I decide where I want to go. And I know the wings are going to hold me and I know how to and where to and well, not always how to, but I know what I want to do and the wings will take me there. Right?
Yes, so beautiful.
Fly out there.
Yes, so beautiful. I love that. And knowing that you have the wings. And I think it's so important what you said as well and you mentioned it before as well, is just being in conversations and rooms and communities and maybe they're virtual rooms with other women who are here to grow as well and can continue to point back to, and maybe that is a coach or a mentor that can continue to remind you, because often like we're going against maybe 30-40 years of conditioning 34 years of listening to that to have someone that can remind you of who you are, of your power and your capacity is what leads to the deepest level of expansion. And you're absolutely right. I still have the support. I put myself in those communities myself and those masterminds because it doesn't stop, right? We are continuing to grow and to evolve, and we're not meant to do it. We're not meant to do it alone. Yeah.
I hear you. Yes, absolutely. So before we end for today, what kind of legacy do you want to leave the world with?
When you ask this question, I think straight away about my daughter. I've got a teenage daughter who's 15, and I think, you know, what would I love her to embody and to remember? And I even talk to her about this now. And it's really in understanding how powerful you are to co-create whatever world you want to see, right? And we do it from the inside out. We think we go out there and we do it all, but we do. This is an inside job. I mean, this is your podcast, right? It's the you inside you. So what can you, I would love to inspire her to continue to dream, to dance with her desires. She's a dancer as well, but for you to continue to lean into and trust your desires and to know that you can color your world in whatever shade you want. You have that power. It's not out there. We're done with outsourcing our power into other things, other voices, other channels. To trust in yourself and your innate, like this is innate, your capacity to tune into worlds, to receive the guidance, to co-create, that is as much in me as it is in you, as it is in everyone, because we're all connected and we're all part of that divine one consciousness. So to really remember that, never forget that.
I'm taking it all in because I can really resonate with, having teenage daughters and the focus on what we want them to know
Yeah.
at an early age, how powerful, how meaningful life is at all times, at all stages, with any kind of contrast, and how they have the power to liberate themselves in any moment and elevate to higher grounds. It's just, thank you
And
for
I think it's
that.
such a sacred role, isn't it?
Mm,
The best thing I believe that we can do for our children is tap into
mm,
what it is that lights us up. That's
mm,
our responsibility to them.
mm, mm,
Right? That is the gift that we can give them, is being our truest expression, because
mm,
that is then showing them what's possible for them. And
mm,
particularly as teenage daughters, there can be a lot of looking outside for that approval and for that validation.
mm,
And it's just such a gift. It's such an absolute gift to see the way my daughter is starting to implement this now. And she is manifesting beautiful things in her life because she's trusting in that. And she sees how it plays out. I mean, my children are amazed. We manifest car parking spaces wherever we go. It makes no logical sense.
yes.
Like, I have fun with it now. I live in a coastal beach town that is so popular over the holidays, and we will go in when I will hear all people saying the traffic is bad and there's never any parking. I'm like, that is not my reality. We choose our reality. I'm like, there is always a rock star car park for me.
Yeah.
That is the certainty that I have. My children see that. They see that, and they know that this isn't all fluff. Like, this is truth, and they will speak to that. And that can just be a small instance, but you can practice it in those small moments,
Mm,
which just shows you how you are playing with the universe and how it's here
mm,
to serve you. And if
mm,
you can apply those small moments into the bigger things,
mm,
which can feel a little bit harder, but we build trust. It's like a trust
mm,
is like a muscle. We build that over time. You can have that same level of certainty for some of those bigger things. My
mm,
gosh, like, miracles are inevitable for you then.
mm, mm.
And that
Yeah.
comes from within.
Love it. Love it. The both and, right? We are those two realities, quote unquote, exist at the same time.
Mm,
So what I really want the listener to take away from this is remember that everything exists at the same time. That if you focus on the perfect parking spot and that there's always the belief that the universe works with you or spirit works with you, then you're right and you will see it
yeah.
manifest right in front of you. But there's also the flip side of it, that if we believe that it's not for you, then that will also be reality, right? So I
Yeah,
love
across
that. And
everything. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. So
Across everything. This is the nature of reality. Whether
mm,
you think you can or you can't, you're right.
yeah, you're right.
You're right.
Exactly. I was just thinking about that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me today, Amy. This has been so beautiful. And it's just incredible how aligned we are in seeing the
Mm,
world and the beautiful work that you do for women and for your new generation, and spreading love, spreading trust and hope and peace into the
mm.
world. I love having co-creators on my side on my You Inside You podcast. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, thank you. It's such a joy. I've loved this conversation. I love how resonant we are, and you had such beautiful questions. It's just such a delight. Thank you so much. Your listeners are very, very, very fortunate to have you holding space through a transmission like this. It's a real
Mm,
gift.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Mm.
So thank you guys for joining us today on You Inside You. I hope this conversation with Amy has inspired you to step deeper into alignment, abundance, and authentic connection. Remember, your true self already holds the wisdom and freedom you're seeking. The more you trust that voice inside of you, the more you create a life that feels expansive, soulful, and fully yours. If today's episode spoke to you, be sure to subscribe and share it with friends who needs this reminder, and explore more of Amy's work on the Abundance Club. And as always, keep choosing connection without losing who you are. Until next time, honor the you inside you. I'll see you soon.